Hello, 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 and welcome back to A Little Birdie Told You. I'm your host, Kristen Knight.
And I'm your host, Kelly Knight.
Ego. What's an ego? Maybe you're thinking, when you hear the word ego, oh, that individual that always acts like they're better than everyone, or that guy that always likes to brag, or that girl that always criticizes me for what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a bad thing? Or is it a good thing? Is it good to have an ego once in a while? Is it confident? Or is it more arrogant and bad to have an ego? Well, today we are going to dive into egos and discuss, is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Why do people have egos? And what to do if you do have an ego. So to you, what is ego defined in, like, at least for you, in your perspective? When you think of somebody who has an ego, what do you think?
I feel like a lot of people have put it out there like an ego is a bad thing. And I mean, I think there's pros and cons and we'll obviously talk about it. But I think just thinking of somebody saying, oh, you have an ego, it's a bad thing. I think that's just where it comes off of in general. That's just how people put it as is a bad thing. Because if you have an ego, you obviously I don't want to say you love yourself more than you love others, but you have a lot of self-love, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes people take that very personal, you know? And I don't really know. I want to say it's
See,
a good and bad
I don't
thing.
think ego is self-love.
But to an extent, no, yeah, it's not really self-love. I think it's more just you're insecure deep down and you try to hide it.
I think it's all of your past mistakes and everything that you fear bundled into this narrative that you project onto everyone else. So I think when you look at someone, you're like, oh, they've got an ego. Why do they have that ego? Because people tend to kind of react in a way to you if they fear something or there's something that you're doing that's triggering something inside of them, an insecurity, an underlying insecurity that we don't understand. I think people put up this front and you're like, there's the ego. They act like they're better than you because deep down they feel like they're not.
Yeah.
They feel that you're better than them, or there's something you're doing that they have a fear that they're not going to achieve.
It's like a trigger that they're like, oh, I don't like that. So let me try to hide it.
Let me one up them a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me belittle you. If you feel someone belittles you constantly, this happens to me all the time. I think it was yesterday. Somebody belittles you and they're like, oh, well, you're young, or you're this, because they want to feel better than you. They want to feel that they're ahead of you. They have a fear that you're going to get ahead of them, or they have a fear that maybe you're a little bit better than them. And let me be honest with you, nobody's better than anyone. No. I'm going to put that straight up right now. Everyone is on their own path. And that's where I feel like the ego kind of exists as this negative connotation, because when you know yourself, okay, well, maybe they're a little bit more advanced at me than us, but we're all on our own journey of self-discovery, figuring out ourselves.
Nobody's going to go on the same path or go farther than someone else.
Yeah, it just doesn't exist. What I'm saying? We're all different.
You might go far in something else, but they might go far in something way completely different than you, but they're still successful.
And people have their own talents and traits. So at the end of the day, you have to consider that. And I feel like when you have an ego, you're not thinking of that. The only thing you're worried about is, okay, am I proving to everyone around me that I'm better, or I'm good enough and I'm validated in this world?
Yeah.
But they're not going to tell you that. They're going to say, oh, I can lift, I can do all this. You can't do anything. And then you're like, oh, okay. Well, they make you feel bad about yourself. They're making you feel bad about yourself because they feel bad about themselves.
Yeah. They'll say all these things. Like I said, people like to tell people things that they want them to hear, but really deep down, maybe they don't have as much going on as what they say they do. You know what I'm saying? People want you to hear the things that are good about them, not the negative traits about them, the good things.
Well, an ego is a false identity that feeds off of our societal perfection, being popular, being, wealthy, being attractive, being well-known, being successful. The ego craves those things.
Yeah.
So they want everyone else to perceive them as those things. So they're going to do whatever they can to make sure they have that. And you're like, well, I don't really know if my ego is like that. We all have an ego. It's how you manage it and control it. If you notice when somebody starts talking about maybe attractiveness or wealth and you have a trigger inside of you, you're like, well, I don't know if I'm attractive. And you're like, well, I wear this, I'm attractive over here. And then you're like, well, why are they talking like that? Well, maybe they have there's an ego coming out now.
Yeah.
They feel that they're not that, so they have to prove that to themselves. But when you know yourself, you're like, okay, I know me. I'm unlike anyone else physically, or maybe this in this route or this factor, I'm my own person in this. So they don't prove that to anyone else. It's not really confidence, if you ask me. And ego is not confidence. If someone is very big and boisterous in the way they communicate things, it doesn't necessarily mean confidence. Confidence translates into something that's a little bit more humble and quieter. People who are confident in themselves, it speaks for itself. They don't need to prove it to everyone because they already know they're confident. So as long as they know they're confident, that's all that matters to them. It doesn't matter if all these different people perceive them as confident, but ego wants everyone to perceive them as confident.
They like, you want to hear the things that you want to hear. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're not getting those, it's going to come out and be like,
ego fishes for compliments. They like those compliments. They like when you're praising them. They like praise. They're prideful. So people who tend to be that way, like I said, they have an underlying insecurity that feeds off of validation. And maybe it's not big and boisterous, but it's those people that you notice, oh, they constantly are concerned about what I'm doing. They always have something to say. They always have a judgment to throw in here or there, those little little signs or whatever of envy and jealousy. That's their ego coming up. That's them trying to say, oh, well, I'm better than you, or hinting that they're better than you, or trying to make you feel that you're not as good as other people in this world, because that's their ego pushing you down. Do you agree?
No, I agree. Because a lot of people, like, I don't want to say one up you, but like maybe you're telling them like you're starting a new hobby or something.
They push you
and then
down.
all of a sudden they push you down, or all of a sudden they start doing it just to try to like, you know what I'm saying, get you like, what in the world?
Like you say, oh, I'm going to try painting out. I'm going to start painting or go to a painting class. And they're like, oh, well, you're not that much of an artist. You can't really do that. Because they're insecure and they want to project that onto you. You're starting something new. Oh, I want to start something new. Oh, and then you find out, I just started a dance class. I'm dancing now. And you're like, okay.
Or like they just
good
like,
for you.
maybe the hobbies you tell them that like you want to start doing or something. And then all of a sudden they have like a bunch of interest in them. Or maybe you're somebody that likes sports or something. And then all of a sudden somebody like randomly just starts going out and like, you know what I'm saying, going to like games and stuff, and you're like, what in the world?
Well, the ego likes validation, so they want other people to praise them too. Like I said, that's the main thing that they're after, is they want this praise. It's like false identity. It's not who they truly are at the core. The true person that they are at the core.
It's like a face mask that they put on. Like they're like, it's like a whole different person.
Like, has anyone heard of alter ego? Alter ego is basically, and this can be used a confident way, okay? Let me just explain what alter ego is. An alter ego is sometimes this narrative that we create to feel better about ourselves. So some people feel like, I'm tapping into my alter ego when I go out. So that way you feel confident about yourself. Do I see anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. I think it's good sometimes to have a little alter ego, like spice it up a little bit, right? We're going to throw in some spice and make ourselves feel a little bit better about ourselves. But the thing is we can't have this false narrative that allows us to depreciate other people in this world. We can't disregard other people's emotions and their feeling and their confidence to make ourselves feel better. When we have this alter ego who's confident in themselves but wants to appear more confident to themselves, they're doing it for themselves, out of themselves. They're not doing it to be praised by other people for validation. They're doing it for themselves. And when they do that, they're not trying to tear other people down to make themselves feel better. They're trying to build themselves up to make themselves feel better.
Like faking it till you make it. Like, you're like, you know what, maybe today I don't feel so confident. We're just going to put this little alter ego on.
We're going to
like,
put,
fake it.
Maybe today.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that, because as long as you're not hurting other people or affecting other people's emotions, you know what I'm saying?
That's confidence.
Like, it's confidence. Just like a little confidence boost to be like, oh yeah, like I'm going to feel a little bit better today.
Basically, confidence is knowing that you are proud of yourself and you have self-worth.
And you know your worth.
Like, and you know your worth.
That's what I was trying to say at the beginning. I'm not trying to come off like, oh yeah, somebody automatically, if they have an ego, it's like all about self-love and stuff. Like, no. But like, if it's a good ego, you know what I'm saying? It's more like, you know, like, I'm going to put this on
I feel like
myself.
There's two different egos. I feel like there's an arrogant ego and a confident ego. But I don't want to associate a confident ego with an arrogant ego, because an arrogant ego thinks, oh, I'm confident in
always
this.
Better.
I'm better than
else.
you. They compare automatically. If someone says, I'm comparing myself to you, or trying to prove to you that they're better than you, or not even you, but prove to themselves, oh, I'm better than you, that means they have an arrogant ego. They're not trying to better themselves. That's not going to better ourselves if we're comparing ourselves to other people. That's going to create insecurity. It's going to create failure in our mind, because those egos, if they fail, they automatically throw it on themselves. Like, this is all my fault. This is all my fault. I have to project it to other people that I'm so much better. But a confident, self-knowing ego is someone who says, okay, this is about lessons and mistakes, but I'm going to grow from these mistakes. You know, it doesn't automatically correlate to humility. If they make a mistake, they're going to ask for help, or they're going to be willing to learn from other people.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that one person and you try to offer them advice, and maybe you're just offering them advice to be nice, like, oh,
and they're like, no, I don't need it.
Yeah,
Leave
I
me
don't need
alone.
it. I already got it. I got it figured out. You don't got to tell me what to do, because they think it's humiliating to offer or ask for advice.
Yeah.
They think, oh, well, I don't need advice because I'm already really well rounded in this subject matter. I know everything I'm talking about. Well, maybe you don't know this one thing, and I just wanted to help you, but you're freaking out, lashing out on me, and you have this underlying trigger because you think you're better. You think you know everything. And sometimes when you're dealing with people like that, you have to understand that maybe they do have insecurities about that.
Yeah.
And it's better not to argue with them about it, but maybe somebody just needs to figure out themselves a little bit more. And I think eventually you do. I think sometimes we all could go through those spurts.
It just takes time.
It takes time. It's like a little insecure habit. Maybe you're going through a tough phase right now and you feel a little down about yourself. So when people mention something, you've got to prove it to yourself. And I think we've all kind of been at that point at least once or twice in our lifetimes, where we're sitting there, maybe somebody does bring something up and we feel the need to, you know, project ourselves. So, well, I know this too.
A good way to, like, as an example, I guess you could say, is like you're holding a balloon, right? And somebody says something, right? And it's like, they're throwing needles at the balloon, so automatically when they say that, it's a trigger and the balloon pops, and all of a sudden you're
bursts,
like, and you're just like, oh my god, you know,
like I know this too. Stop! Like I've got
it.
I've got it figured out, and then you feel the need to do that. You just got to let your balloon just sit there, and you know, turn your balloon into something that can't be touched, something that can't be popped. You know, that's your self-esteem. Don't allow people, what they say and what they do, to bother you that much, where it has that effect on you. Just become grounded in yourself. And assure yourself that you are worthy. Other people do not get to dictate that for you. Other people do not get to tell you if you're worthy or not. And that's what the problem is with ego, is we begin to rely on that. And that's kind of something that are humanly natural, I would say. A lot of people, that's just normal, where we think, oh, what other people tell us, that's automatically correct. Their opinions matter, but their opinions don't matter.
No, because at the end of the day, the only person's opinion that matters is yourself. Because it's the way that you look at yourself. Like, do you look in the mirror and say, oh yeah, you know, like, I know who I am, you know what I'm saying, like, I feel confident? Or like, or do you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, like, I feel like somebody needs to tell me, like, you know what I'm saying, or else, like, I feel like I can't walk outside.
Like, do you feel all the time that you have to be fed all this compliment and all this, you know, oh, you're doing fine, you know, you're amazing and all these things? You don't need all of that. You don't need someone else to tell you that. You need to tell that to yourself, because if you don't tell that to yourself and you truly believe it, you're constantly going to crave other people's satisfaction in you. You're going to want other people to validate your presence and your belonging in this world, and that's just not the case. You have to think, sometimes people before that ego were hurt and they made mistakes and they fell down, and it took them to this place where people were constantly trying to tell them who they were, and then they developed this ego to make themselves feel better. And that's great, because that's like an alter ego, right? But you've got to transform that alter ego that's arrogant and thinks you're better than everyone to an ego that's, I'm just making myself feel better, so I'm going to do some things to myself, or maybe behave in a way that makes me feel better about myself personally, but doesn't harm the people around me. It won't make them feel judged or criticized. Because if you notice those people who constantly judge and criticize other people,
it makes them feel better about themselves, because they want to let it out on other people.
And why does it make them feel better about themselves? Because they think, oh, I've got these issues, I'm going to make them have these issues too. So then I know everyone around me has these issues, so I'm normal. I fit into society. We're all like this way. So we all are the same way and we behave the same way. And someone else is just like me. But you don't need to do that. You got to resolve these issues on your own. And a person who has an ego doesn't think about themselves like that. They don't tap down into their energy and say, well, okay, this triggered me, so I'm going to take this back and say, well, why does this trigger me? And work on that. I've always said, if there's something where you automatically feel triggered internally, instead of projecting it out, say, okay, well, this is a trigger. This is something that bothers me, so I've got to work on it. I've got to work on it.
Don't sit there and project it on other people, because at the end of the day, you don't know what else other people are going through. So it's like
if someone else's confidence triggers you automatically and you feel the need to lash out and say things to them or make yourself prove a point.
You should be like, I want to be like them one day.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
not gonna lash out on them. Sit there and like use it as inspiration down the road and be like, I'm gonna work towards that.
Yeah, I'm gonna work towards that. Instead of having it as a trigger, I'm gonna use it as inspiration. Instead of saying something to them to cut their confidence down, I'm going to use this as a way to build my confidence. I want to behave that way. I want to go with the flow, and I want to be a confident individual and have abundance in my confidence. So I'm gonna work towards that. I'm gonna take small steps to gravitate towards having an ego that's confident. Not even having an ego, but I feel like it's a sense of self. I feel like if you're confident in yourself and you know that you're confident in yourself, you're going to be somebody who's interested in yourself. You're going to build your self-esteem. You're going to build your confidence where those little triggers don't bother you. They're not triggers anymore. And I'm not saying people aren't going to say stuff that's going to trigger you regardless if you are confident. People are going to say stuff to you sometimes that you don't like to hear. But it's how you react towards that. And that's the difference. That's at least what I feel with the egos. I feel like they react in a way that makes them feel better about themselves and hurts other people. That's what I feel. And I feel like confident, self-assuring people are going to take that instead of using it as something to project negativity back onto.
It's going to be like a push towards like work to it.
Yeah, they're either, and they're not going to focus on it. They're like, you know what, you said that, that's your own opinion. That's just a projection of yourself. But egos feel, oh, that's personal. That's something I'm taking to my heart. You're saying that because you feel that way towards me. Well, that's not the case. That's you. They automatically feel that way. And you're like, okay, but you shouldn't also like, I guess, someone has an ego, I would just completely ignore it.
They're gonna because they're looking for a reaction.
They're looking for a reaction because why? They want that validation, guys. They want your validation. They want you to make them feel that way. Like if you're like, what are you doing? Why are you acting like that? They like that. They like that energy and attention. So instead of feeding into it, just say, you know what? I have to understand that they've got something that they're trying to work through and they've got this ego to prove to me that they can do this and that, X, Y, and Z for a reason. So I'm just going to ignore the ego and let them be because I'm not going to have an ego. And if they have an ego, good for them. It's not a part of their personality. Like I said, it's just some fears that are coming up and maybe mistakes and they don't want to make them again. So they just have this ego that helps feed those insecurities and helps make those insecurities hidden from the world. They're hiding it from you. They're almost like taking it, throwing it all in a chest, and then they're the chest and they're like, oh, look how, fancy I am and everything is perfect on me. But you don't see all these things that I'm actually hiding from you. So usually bigger the ego, bigger the insecurity. I'll just be honest. If they have a large ego when they walk into the room, you just know ego. I feel like it's not something that you're like, how do I explain what ego feels like? You look at someone and they make you feel bad about yourself, but they make their confidence, that's not even confidence, it's like an artificial confidence. Do you feel so?
Yeah, like that it can just go. Like it's not like it's actually stably there. It's like it just goes.
It's insecure.
Yeah.
It's not really there. It's kind of one of those things that you know that if you said something, you could really make them upset. If you said like a little tiny innuendo to them, and why would you do that? Because that's not right. But you know, if you said anything, it would trigger them. That's how you kind of know somebody's got an ego, and they've got this artificial way of presenting themselves to the world because they have all these hidden underlying fears.
Yeah, that makes them feel better.
And don't develop that into an ego. If you have fears, work through them. The only way to work through your fears is to confront them. Okay. If you make mistakes along the way, it's a lesson. If you feel someone else is better than you, get out of that mindset right now because that's not the case. They're not better than you. You're all going through your own path and maybe they're more advanced at something than you or they're doing something differently and you're like, oh, well, I'm not doing that yet. Stop. It's not about them. The moment you're comparing,
it's not a competition.
It's not.
Everybody's on their own little wavelength.
Egos like to make it a competition.
Yeah.
They like competition. Like if you went up to them and offered to be in competition with them, they would 100% probably want to do it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And egos can go for guys and girls. I don't know if I'm making this seem like it's more of a guy thing. I feel like it kind of, ego is dominating and that's kind of what I feel like people with egos like to do. But it could be something that goes both ways. It could be for anyone. It can apply to absolutely anyone. It could apply to that girl who always tells you that you don't look right or that you're not this or you're not that or make you feel bad about yourself. Sometimes it can be as simple as that. It can actually apply to absolutely anyone. It really can't. It's just someone who likes to dominate. They kind of like to dominate the situation, how you feel and your reactions, and maybe manipulate you into believing certain things. That can be an ego sometimes. It's basically they're just triggered by things. Maybe they can't control things, so they want to control you and make you feel a certain way. That's ego. But just remember, You comparing yourself to other people doesn't matter. I know I just said this, but that's not something you're going to do. Don't do that. The moment you do that, you fall into these habits of constantly saying, well, if that person's doing that, I have to do that. That doesn't matter at the end of the day. It truly doesn't. You have to know yourself. Some of these people that you're around right now, you will never be around them again. So why are you proving yourself to people that are just there for a quick little season? You don't need to do that. The only person that's there with you forever is yourself. We always say this. So the only person you need to prove yourself to is yourself. Prove that you're confident to yourself. Prove that you're courageous and you're strong and you're willing to do these things to yourself, not to anyone else.